it happens to be about climate change. She was to prepare a 60-second or less ad that promotes something of concern to her. It really is an ad, so it's a fictitious company. So you can ignore what appears to be a commercial element. That part is fictitious. So if we are able to look at it, I invite you to vote for our Jamaican girl who is a star at Howard, and she will get some money to help with her tuition.
Saying a change is possible is like fixing the unfixable. Start now, we can't. Just do nothing and blame those who came before us. Let's not be irrational. There is nothing we can do. There is nothing we can do. Let's not be irrational and blame those who came before us. Just do nothing, we can't. Start now is like fixing the unfixable and saying a change is possible. Choose right, choose life. Warner Energy.
Thank you. How do we find that? I think if you type Warner Energy, or if you could show me something. So I encourage you to like the YouTube video. No? Right, so if you type that, Warner Energy advertisement, film supply, Edit Fest 24, you will see the video. And I'm sure everybody has a smartphone in here. So I encourage you to like it so that Shawneel Mitchell will tell us thanks for earning her the winning prize. Thank you very much. wherever you are. If our Deputy President could pick it up on her Android, then all of you can. At the forefront, ladies and gentlemen, of climate change, treating with climate change issues are many UTEC alumni, some of them CAST alumni. I don't know if Mr. Leonard Francis of NEPA is a CAST or a UTEC alumni. He looks like a UTEC alumni. Alumnus, right. He's both, yeah, CAST and UTEC alumnus. Welcome, Mr. Francis, we are proud of you. Elevated to the highest level of NEPA recently, and government town planner. And Professor Archer is very proud to announce that. All right, so everybody looks nice and settled. Welcome, Mr. Kari Blackwood, Commission Land Surveyor. People, the students are still talking about Senior Lecturer Valentine McCook, who we hope will return. Professor Archer is asking if you're here. Take a bow. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of our Prime Minister. Good morning. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated. Welcome to Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister. I've been wanting to say that for a while, Prime Minister. We are told that climate change is the reason we're off to a little late start. So we are making that statement that it's important that we have this conversation, this dialogue, this conference, these workshops, and to engage stakeholders from across the spectrum of private sector, public sector. And Mr. Prime Minister, you notice that we have some young people because we must also engage the young people in our conversation about how we come to solutions. Welcome, welcome to the Faculty of the Built Environment's 4th International Conference, and our first with a focus on climate change. It's going to be 2 exciting days, and I'm happy that you were not put off by the heavy rains last night or the lighter showers this morning. I'm sure the traffic was a little heavy, as it normally is. But as our conference chairman did, I was up almost all night and got here extremely early ahead of the traffic. So we are happy to have you. This is day 1 of the conference. We extend a very warm welcome to persons who are joining from across the world on our YouTube channel. Welcome, welcome. We're happy to have you. But particularly happy for those of you who are in LT50, shared facilities at UTEC, and in the overflow room next door in LT49. We're going to dive right into the program. Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, the Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education and Youth, Dr. Kevin Brown, President, University of Technology, Jamaica, Ambassador Olivier Goyen-Vache, Ambassador of France to Jamaica, Dr. Lawrence Newville, Dean of the Faculty of the Built Environment, Conference Chairman, who I know is in a corner sitting somewhere, Associate Professor Dr. Glendon Newsome, members of faculty and staff, members of the academic community, visiting from the University of the West Indies, Mona, and other educational institutions, including high schools, representatives from the public and private sector, teachers, students, members of the media, sponsors, all good morning and welcome again. Good morning. Good morning. Excellent. So we are moving into the program, and I invite you to stand for the playing of the national anthem.
Eternal Father, bless our land, guard us with thy mighty hand, keep us free from evil powers, be our light through countless wars. To our leaders, great defender, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica land we love. Jamaica, Jamaica, Jamaica land we love. Teach us true respect for all, star response to duty's call, strengthen us the weak to cherish, give us vision lest we perish, knowledge send us, Heavenly Father, grant true wisdom from above, justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica land we love. Jamaica, Jamaica, Jamaica land we love.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated. That is the UTEC version of the national anthem. And you saw all of those major celebrities who passed through this wonderful institution. We are very proud of Dr. Sean Moncrief, a member of our academic staff, who is the soloist on that. Welcome, welcome again. I did a bit of, and I'm delaying because I can't find it. I did a bit of research to find some notable quotes on climate change, and I will not quote anybody who's in here because they'll have opportunity to do it, to tell us from their perspective. But there were some very significant ones, and I will eventually get to it. So ladies and gentlemen, we at UTEC are mindful that we do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And so we would like to reserve a few minutes at the beginning of our program for prayer. And I invite Mrs. Shelley-Ann Irons, who is a senior lecturer in the Faculty of the Built Environment, to bring the invocation. Chaplain? Oh.
Good morning, everyone. Hebrews 3 and verse 4. Every house is built by someone, but God is the builder of everything. Genesis 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Psalm 19 and verse 1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies proclaim the work of his hands. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, our Creator and Sustainer, we honor and adore you this morning. This is the day that you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. So we enter into your presence with thanksgiving. We thank you for the mountains. We thank you for the birds, the bees, the trees, the rivers, the seas. We thank you for the beaches. We thank you for our beautiful country, Jamaica, the land of wood and water. And Father, we definitely thank you for all the people in this room, in our land, and that we continue to grow in love. Father, as great scholars, experts, students, and government officials are gathered at this International Climate Change Conference, we pray that you will empower and speak through all presenters, which will convict and convert our hearts and minds of all participants to effect change to climate mitigation and adaptation strategies. So we declare that the next 2 days of this conference will be informative, enlightening, and engaging. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. My wife, who has joined me live stream, says the sound is a little low on the live stream, and I'm saying that for the technical team, and simultaneously bigging up Karen Young. We are the first generation to feel the effect of climate change, and the last generation who can do something about it. That's a quote from Barack Obama. And I particularly, Ambassador, want to quote Emmanuel Macron: by polluting the oceans, not mitigating CO2 emissions, and destroying our biodiversity, we are killing our planet. Let us face it, there is no planet B. And I know people are fixing to go to Mars and wherever else. I don't think it's an option, but there's no planet B. So it's important that we are engaging in this conference. I am pleased to welcome Dr. Kevin Brown, President of the university, to bring the welcome. Welcome him.
Thank you, Professor Garfield Young, our very accomplished master of ceremonies. I keep asking every event I attend whether he's going to depart from academia at some point. But I don't think this pays as much, right, Prof? So we still have you in our Faculty of the Built Environment, but thank you so much. You're doing a fantastic job. Let me also welcome the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, our Prime Minister, friend of UTEC, and it's always a pleasure, Prime Minister, to have you here at our National STEM University. And also let me acknowledge Honorable Favour Williams, who is not only the Minister of Education and Youth, but she is also our Member of Parliament and a great friend and supporter of our institution. So welcome again, Minister. Welcome home, as I always say. To the Diplomatic Corps, I want to recognize Ambassador Olivier Guyan-Verge, who is also a partner with UTEC on activities around the built environment, and we look forward to that continued partnership. But let me also turn my recognition to the organizers of the conference, Dr. Newsom, who right now I can see is still stressed, probably won't relax until the 2 days have passed, and Dr. Lawrence Newville, Dean of the Faculty of the Built Environment, and his entire team. I can see Dr. Jackson and others who have done so much work behind the scenes to have us here today to talk about climate change, right, and the importance of what's happening in our climate. Let me also acknowledge my Deputy President, Professor Charmaine Barrett. I can see other deans here, Professor Thorpe, Professor Archer, Professor Omeregi, lots of professors, right? And I see many of them in the audience as well. I won't go through all the names, so forgive me. But I want to thank you for being here. supporting our university in this very important conference. I also see many members of other tertiary institutions here, and I welcome you all, our friends next door, UEMONA, CMU, and other institutions, high schools, members of the private sector, teachers, and to everyone else in the audience, thank you so much for being here. If it's your first time to UTech, welcome to our university. And today is a very significant day for us, because as we host this conference, it is a recognition by our institution that climate change is a major challenge for Jamaica, the region, and the globe. And so our Faculty of the Built Environment, which I hope some of these students I'm seeing will apply to join in the future, is spearheading this conversation over the next 2 days. The theme of the conference, Adoption and Mitigation Strategies for Climate Departure, Managing the Crisis, is a really poignant theme, managing the crisis. It is a crisis. But I must say this, I lived in the UK for 23 years. And in the UK, climate change is on the agenda. It's in the news almost daily. Not just at the governmental level, the citizens, the NGOs. There is one called Extinction Rebellion, for example, who constantly are blocking highways and other examples of civil disobedience, keeping climate change visible. You may not agree with their strategy, but it keeps climate change on the agenda, not just at the government policy level, but ordinary citizens. When they feel the pain of when this group blocks the road, they're reminded that we indeed have a crisis. So of course I came home last year to Jamaica and I found silence. Now, in saying that, I want to quickly say to the Prime Minister, I know that at the governmental level, there is a lot of noise. The government of Jamaica is talking about loss and damage, and there's a lot of intergovernmental exchange. But the ordinary citizen, my opinion, is not pushing the issue hard enough. And I think that is where the sensitization is required. And I'm hoping that this conference will help to deliver and improve on sensitization. But I'm saying to all of you, when you leave this conference, you need to discuss climate change with your friends and family. It's important. You must have realized that Jamaica is hotter. When I left Jamaica, it was not this hot. When I left this institution as a student, we did not have air conditioning, only special people. But the vast majority of the campus was just ventilated through natural air. And the buildings were actually built like that. Professor Young reminds me that in the Faculty of Built Environment, when I said to him, can we modernize the windows? He said, well, you might not want to rush and do that because they ventilate based on how it's designed. The wind should flow through and ventilate. But I'm sure he'll admit that that's not enough today. The campus I've returned to is hot. And Prime Minister, I have close to 1,000 AC units on this campus. Currently, my electric bill is around $16 million per month. So when my staff come and they turn on the AC, which they must have, the electric bill is quite significant. So when you talk about climate change, the impact is also financial. For a university like us, a public institution, that's a lot of money. So we are going to move quickly, Prime Minister, to solarization, and we want to install solar as quickly as we can. We need around 2 megawatts of it, and we're going to pursue that with vigor and energy. But I just want to highlight the challenge. 200 of those AC units are down at the moment. And when those AC units go down, unfortunately, I have to give staff the option to work from home. So climate change for me, as a head of entity, is real, very real, right? And when my infrastructure is not great and the roofs leak sometimes, when we have these very intense rainfalls, again, it's an impact on our built environment, on the comfort of our staff. So we at UTech know all about climate change. But we're not just here to talk about the challenges, Prime Minister. UTech is also here ready to offer solutions. And so as we transform our institution, becoming research intensive is a major imperative, because UTech is here as a university, as a national university, to help solve our climate change problems. And we have lots of talent. I'm looking at Professor Archer. I'm looking at Professor Young. And the many other talented faculty here, Professor Therese Chambers, who are experts, who stand ready, Prime Minister, to deliver these solutions, along with our students. So we are here to do our mission for the country, not just to produce a STEM workforce, which we have been doing for the last 66 years, but also to innovate and to solve our problems, our very local problems, our regional problems, and global issues as well. And so this conference, of course, will be an opportunity to have that dialogue, to look at all the issues. We have gathered a long list of experts. Some of them I'm looking at here, and I look forward to hearing from them. And of course, we will hear from the Prime Minister and the Minister of Education, who will also give a position on the topic. So I want to just end by congratulating the team again on a job well done. I know the effort that has gone into putting this conference together. And I want to thank everyone here who has made the effort to come out. But I say it again, I go back to where I started, that you need to sensitize everyone on the challenges around climate change. You've experienced Hurricane Beryl. We missed it by a whisker, to be honest, although it has devastated some sections of our agricultural lands, and the impact, of course, is in our pockets, because when the farms are destroyed, the market prices go up. And there is more to come in terms of what is happening with our seas and oceans that are getting hotter. So you need to go back, students, parents, technocrats, private sector, and keep talking about climate change. And I'm not necessarily saying that we should block the road, like our friends in the UK, but we need to keep drumming up that attention towards this very big challenge that we face. And we look forward, Prime Minister, to working with your government and the private sector to solve the problems around climate change and to make Jamaica resilient. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you for your leadership. And you have identified some important players here at UTech that we play an important role in coming to solutions for the issues we face as a nation and region. I'm going to invite to the podium the Dean of the Faculty of the Built Environment to bring remarks. Please welcome Dr. Lawrence Newville.
Thank you very much, Professor Young. Most Honorable and Honest Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education, Ambassador Olivier of France, Dr. Glendon Newsom, Conference Chair, Deputy President Professor Barrett, Professor Stark, Omarege, Hilton, other professors, deans, members of the university senior management team, distinguished guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, students, good morning. Welcome to the Faculty of the Built Environment Climate Change Conference. As the Dean of the Faculty of the Built Environment, allow me to express my thanks to you for choosing to participate in our efforts to contribute to the ongoing climate change discussion toward a sustainable solution. This is an important event for our university, University of Technology, Jamaica, for our country, Jamaica, for the region, and for the world. The Faculty of the Built Environment has, for decades, responded to the changes happening on our planet by preparing buildings that are smart, professionals that are equipped, organizations that are responsive, and research that examines best practices and promotes climate action. In other words, climate adaptation has been incorporated in our curriculum as our part of a response strategy. It is, therefore, my pleasure to welcome everyone to this conference as we continue to examine some solutions. I am convinced that this conference should provide some solutions to the challenges and threats of climate change. Please note that the conference should not just be about talk. It is to be considered a serious effort towards achieving solutions in support of major challenges that occur because of climate change. I agree with President Sameh Shukri that climate change is humanity's biggest challenge of modern times and is a real threat to people's lives, wherever they live and in all forms, and is the biggest thing that humanity has endured since the industrial times. I also agree that if we do not do something radical, future generations will face more serious consequences compared to that which is witnessed by our current generation. I can confirm, based on reports I've engaged with on climate change, that if we continue on a path where we are not viewing the Sustainable Development Goals and climate change as being symbiotically connected, we are doomed. The United Nations in its 2023 annual report states that the urgent business of rescuing the Sustainable Development Goals and the fight against climate change has been stalled by a lack of sufficient investment and political will. We as a country are being encouraged by the United Nations to invest in a sustainable solution and practices by our citizens. This investment must be heavily hinged on the impact of climate change in relation to establishing climate resilience, which cannot occur without our people. And by our people, we mean individually and collectively. Let me take this opportunity to remind you that climate change is caused by human activities. In other words, how we do what we do continues to threaten life on Earth as we know it. We are called to cut in half emissions by 2030, which is just about 5.5 years away. But how do we create a climate resilient environment when the experts warn that we are drastically off track from achieving this target? We are required to act, and to act now. We are required to educate people and organizations at the micro and macro levels. Indeed, higher education institutions, such as the University of Technology, Jamaica, have a moral responsibility to ensure that our stakeholders at all levels are constantly exposed to the most current information available on this existential threat. In 2020, the World Bank Group established 6 ways to build resilience to climate change, to include build resilient foundation with rapid and inclusive development, help people and firms to do their part, revise land use plans and protect critical infrastructure, help people and firms to recover faster and better, manage the impact at the macro level, prioritize according to the needs, implement across sectors, and monitor progress. These are all within the realm of the various curricula that guides our teaching and learning at this institution. As a developing country, Jamaica, we have a role to play in reducing the negative impact of climate change on our planet. For example, we are implored to act quickly to take the necessary step. In this regard, the Faculty of the Built Environment and the University of Technology, Jamaica, in general, are aptly positioned to collaborate with experts, locally, regionally, and internationally, to establish and implement that which climate change solutions necessitate. For example, our urban and regional planners continue to integrate climate change adaptation in land use planning. Our surveyors can design flood mitigation measures and map critical infrastructure. Our construction engineers and managers can address climate change through their expertise in designing, constructing, and managing sustainable infrastructure. And the architects can design buildings that are more energy efficient and built in conformance with the current and the forecast climate variation paradigms. At the Faculty of the Built Environment, we understand that education is a critical agent to addressing climate change. We will be able to improve upon with the conference of this nature, Thanks to the conference organizing team for the work they have undergone to get us to this actual staging of this event. Their collective action is an indicator of the type of collaborative effort it will take to establish solutions towards climate adaptation, especially since 2023 was considered a climate emergency, with the year being the hottest year to date on record. The United Nations report highlights that though there are difficulties, progress is possible and change is achievable. Thanks to Dr. Newsom for acting on what he saw as a possible solution towards change. By meeting here, we are examining our progress so they can be part of a larger climate change conversation and ultimately meet the goal of this specific conference, which is to espouse adaptation and mitigation strategies for managing the crisis of climate change. Again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Let us make use of this space so that we can create solutions towards the change that we want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean Newville. We're going to go quickly through the program, and I'm going to invite the chairman of the conference organizing committee, Dr. Glendon Newsom, to do the conference overview. Dr. Newsom, welcome him. Dr. Newsom is vertically challenged.
It was our most honorable Prime Minister who recently offered some very valuable words of advice to a certain segment of our society when those who decide to opt for a life of crime will either face a judge or meet their maker. Good morning, most honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Education, President Brown, Dean Newville, our plenary speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Let me put it to you that climate change can be just as devastating as the results of crime. That the levels of heat that we are now experiencing, not only during the summer months, but almost all year. Some of us may be saying to ourselves, and I don't know how many of us had grannies who used to talk about the living hell. It may be very well that we are experiencing the living hell now. And then when you see what is happening, like, for example, what we witnessed in John's Hall in St. James recently, where cars were just floating. And I hope none of us have had that experience, but I suppose when those flood waters are raging and probably approaching and getting in the direction of those who may have suffered, they would have probably said to themselves, well, no, I'm going to meet my maker. We don't want to lose any more to climate change or the effects thereof. And so that is why the university has taken this step to inform and educate on the adaptation and mitigation strategies which we all need to be aware of if we are going to nurture a sustainable and climate-smart environment. So on the behalf of the president and the executive management of the university, let me extend my warm welcome to you all to UTEC Jamaica International Climate Change Conference 2024. We are truly honored to have you join us for this very exciting event, which has brought together notable climate change and sustainable energy expertise of global, regional, and local academics and professionals. Over the 2 days, we will explore the latest trends, innovations, and best practices in the areas of renewable energy, sustainable technologies, geospatial sciences, artificial intelligence, ecosystem resilience and conservation, urban resilience and infrastructure development, climate cooperation, legal finance policy, social equity, justice and poverty alleviation, and climate education and capacity building. Our conference features an impressive array of speakers led by Dr. the Most Honorable Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness. Our 8 plenary speakers are very distinguished in their respective fields and will be complemented by vibrant question and answer sessions, workshops featuring industry experts. Our technical sessions will feature 14 judiciously selected presentations by professionals who will empower you for adaptation and mitigation. We have presenters from Kenya, from France, from Australia, and of course from Jamaica. We invite you to take full advantage of the tremendous networking opportunities. We encourage you to engage with our speakers, asking questions and sharing your experiences. Our heartfelt thanks goes out to our sponsors. Please visit their booths and gather as much information as you can. We look forward to a productive and inspiring conference, one which is solution-oriented, geared at pointing institutions, agencies, professionals, and members of the public in the direction of being climate smart. A very entertaining package awaits you at our closing ceremony tomorrow afternoon. So please take a moment to review the program. You can find the program on our website, utechjamaica.com, and you will see international conference there. You select programs, and the program is available there. So let's make our time together a very pleasant one. And one final note for those who are interested in Wi-Fi, it's ICCC 2024_guest. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the proceedings.
Thank you, Dr. Newsom, and commendation for the excellent work you have done in leading a large team that put this conference together. Ladies and gentlemen, the program has been updated. The QR code is a new one. I invite you to scan for the new code, for the new program. Thank you. We're always very happy to have our minister, and we say our minister because we are an education institution, but she's also our member of parliament, and always very present at all things UTEC. So to bring us greetings, we invite to the podium the Honorable Favour Williams, MP.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let me acknowledge our Master of Ceremonies, Professor Garfield Young, the Honorable, the Most Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, President Brown, faculty and staff of UTEC, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, students of Calabar, good morning, yes. Teachers, members of the media. I am grateful to be here today as we gather for the University of Technology's International Climate Change Conference 2024. Let me pause to commend the leadership of UTech for organizing this timely and critical event. The theme, Adaptation and Mitigation Strategies for Climate Departure, Managing the Crisis, speaks directly to the challenges we face globally and, of course, here in Jamaica. And so this conference not only brings together leaders, researchers, and innovators, but it also opens the door to an intergenerational dialogue, one that includes the bright minds of our secondary school students who are studying subjects and will continue to study subjects such as green engineering along with their teachers. Our Prime Minister was recently at the Summit of the Future at the United Nations in New York, where the conversations were centered on our respective collective and individual roles in making the world a better place for generations to come. And it was agreed that intergenerational discussions and students/youth action are critical in all decisions. With that said, students, your presence here today is welcomed, as you are the next generation of problem solvers, and your role in all we do moving ahead is invaluable. The climate crisis, as we know, is not merely an environmental issue. As Jamaicans, we see the effects and continue to feel the effect of the heat associated with the much higher temperatures. We worry about the receding coastlines and more erratic weather patterns and disasters that are increasing in frequency and intensity. Regrettably, this is our new reality, and adaptation and mitigation must take place now. And so the significance of this conference cannot be overstated. Fora like these are important and provide an opportunity for Jamaica to reinforce its commitment to climate action, to learn, and more importantly, to share. Research shows that when students are equipped with knowledge about climate science and sustainability, they are more likely to make informed decisions, adopt green practices, and contribute to a more resilient society. It is my hope that we can foster these skills and that we can prepare a generation of climate-conscious citizens who will not only survive but thrive in a rapidly changing world. The Ministry of Education and Youth is committed to its efforts, and I'm happy to share that climate change education is included in our national standards curriculum as early as grade 3, with a focus on the physical environment. This continues, and by the time students get to grade 6, they are being introduced to climate change in more explicit ways, learning about its causes and consequences. As these students move into upper secondary education, students have the option to pursue subjects like green engineering and renewable energy at the Cape level, designed to empower our young people with the knowledge and skills they need to understand climate science, embrace sustainability practices, and think critically about the solutions required to address these challenges. Climate change, as we know, cannot be tackled in isolation, but must take place collaboratively, and it's for those reasons that I am encouraged when I see our own education stakeholders participating in international activities like the Climate Action Project, now underway with millions of other teachers and students from across the globe, taking action, relying on creativity, empathy, critical thinking in synchronous and asynchronous ways over the course of 6 weeks to work through real-world problems. This administration, through the Ministry of Education and Youth, is also committed to strengthening our schools' infrastructure, and I'm happy to share that we are revising the building standards under the Green Building Strategy. Yes, thank you. So far, stakeholders' consultations have taken place, and we're in the process of implementing rainwater harvesting, exploring renewable energy sources, such as the use of solar power, and examining ways to enhance energy efficiency. In closing, I must share that addressing climate change is not an overnight solution. It requires sustained time and effort. The fight against climate change is akin to a marathon, not a sprint. And while it may take time, every action counts and every effort matters. I would like to once again commend UTEC for hosting this important conference and for creating a space where leaders, students, and educators can come together to share ideas, strategies, and solutions. Thank you all for your participation and subsequent engagement, which we expect to follow from this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister. You did mention revision of the building code, and perhaps you know, Minister, that this university was involved in the Jamaica Safe School project. So we have a database with all the infrastructure in all our public schools, highlighting vulnerability to any kind of disaster events. Really very important. And we also provided training to members of the ministry who will use the database in their decision making. Professor Archer is here. She led the project regarding the building code, training for persons who work in local government and in other sectors. Really very important work is being done in this university. Thank you very much, Minister, for your support. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for waiting. The highlight of our opening ceremony is next. It is a big statement when you invite the holder of the highest office in Jamaica to be the keynote, and there was no hesitation at all. Our Prime Minister has made a significant statement in accepting, without hesitation, the invitation to be our keynote speaker. Thank you, sir, for accepting that invitation. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I invite you to stand with me as I welcome to the podium with the keynote address, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister. Welcome in.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you, Master of Ceremonies, Professor Garfield Young, for the mastery with which you have conducted the ceremony. I'm not sure if there is a professorship in directing ceremony and protocol, but Mr. President, if there is, I know who is the candidate to hold that first seat. The Honorable Favour Williams, or Minister of Education, His Excellency Olivier Guyanvache. Did I get the French correct? Our ambassador to Jamaica from France. Kevin Brown, our president of the University of Technology. And I noted very carefully what the president said, that he doesn't hear a lot of noise about climate change in the society, but he hears a lot of noise about it at the government level. I reflected on it and wanted to point out to him that the government doesn't make noise. The government must always make coherent statements, and if we make them more frequently, which we do on climate change, then they will filter down into the consciousness of the people in the society who won't make noise, but will make a chorus of again, conscious statements that will be uplifting and enlightening. What you are trying to say, Mr. President, and I speak as your interpreter in this regard, is that climate change ought to be an issue for the common man as well as for our intellectual elites, because it cuts across all facets of society. It is something that affects our lives in every single way. And I accepted the invitation for precisely that reason, because I need to be not only speaking more on the issue, but I need to be speaking to specific audiences on the issue. And so I'm happy to see that we have representation from our high schools. I believe Calabar High School is here. I'm not certain that I'm seeing other schools, but if you are here, I'm recognizing you as well. And you did claim to have an international audience and a global audience as well. So that is always a very good incentive. Let me also acknowledge Dr. Newsom, the coordinator again, and the organizer of the event. Very well done. Congratulations. Stakeholders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning again. It is a great pleasure to address this esteemed gathering at this inaugural International Climate Change Conference. Climate change is one of the most pressing global challenges of our time and represents an existential threat to small island developing states like Jamaica. I therefore want to commend the University of Technology and all the organizers for launching this important event to discuss adaptation and mitigation strategies for Jamaica and the region. Let me say that climate change is not a distant threat. It is here now. Climate change is not something that is happening to us. Climate change is what we are doing. I think those are two key points that targeted specifically to our young people. Existential in that it not only can change the way in which we live, it has the potential to, let me not be so dramatic, but it could, if it changes in a dramatic way, it could change life as we know it. And you know, there is always a raging debate about climate change, whether or not the climate will change regardless of what we do. There is a cycle of the earth, and there will be a change in the climate. Some people say the climate changes, you know, every few months. You know, you have winter, summer, spring, autumn, climate changes. But the truth is that the climate is changing in a more rapid way than we had projected and anticipated by virtue of the activity of humankind. Clearly, over the last 100 to 150 years, we were never consuming as much fossil fuel as we are now. We weren't clearing the forests as rapidly as we are now. We weren't practicing the kind of agriculture that would change the content of carbon and other global warming chemicals and gases in our air. So we are having an impact on our climate. So in effect, we are causing an existential threat to ourselves. So it makes the point you see. We in this room, at this esteemed institution, we know this. But what about the rest of the population? For the rest of the population, I am worried about the pothole that is in front of my house. Don't tell me about climate change. I am concerned that I can't get any water in my house. You come to tell me about greenhouse gas and the earth is. Of course, Jamaica has always been hot. We're a tropical climate. Don't tell me about climate change, when I can't get electricity where I live and my electricity bill is high. That is what the government must talk about. Don't talk to me about climate change. And of course, it becomes even more complex because, and this is very much, again, speaking to the students here from high school, it's a very complex issue because it is not only a consumer behavior issue, meaning how we consume and how we treat our environment, but it is also a serious political issue because the level of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere didn't just get there because we consumed the products that were created from those greenhouse gases. There is a case that is strongly being made that these gases that are there now, which pose the threat to us, the existential threat to us now, occurred as a result of the industrial revolutions that have taken place on the back of, at that time, an unconscious but rabid use of natural resources, particularly fossil-based resources. And that created wealth for some people in the world, which is now creating an existential threat for others who occupy the space now. So in other words, there's this issue of climate justice. That the centuries of industrialization has created this problem that small island states, we didn't create it, but we are losing our shorelines. We are prone to more devastating hurricanes, acidification of the oceans around us, the loss of our coral reefs, because other countries that benefited from the use of fossil fuels and industrial agriculture and other such practices, they have the wealth and the resources to defend their own countries from it. But we didn't benefit from that. And so we can't defend, adapt, and mitigate the climate change, which is why the UN Secretary General had invited me to be a part of a group of global leaders to speak about climate change and to ask for $100 billion a year for climate mitigation and adaptation. And of course, the rich countries all said yes, yes, of course, from a conscientious and, again, climate justice point of view, but we haven't seen it really in any significant way. Because there's also another issue. How do you tell the taxpayers in the developed world that benefited from, these hundreds of years of industrialization to take up their tax dollars to fix a beach in Jamaica or build a revetment or help with water or so forth? I mean, especially in democracies, these are realities. When we talk about climate change, these are some of the intricate issues that we have to understand. So, yes, I'm speaking now of climate change from the scientific level of this, greenhouse gas effect and the warming of the oceans and all of those things. which the average person might say, you know, this is not going to affect me in my lifetime, so don't tell me about that. And then there is the social justice political issue, that there are those of us who recognize, as was quoted from President Macron, there is no planet B. Elon Musk doesn't think so. So this is a planet we have, and this is a planet we should save. And so there are those of us who are thinking in an enlightened way, Professor Archer, that we should restructure the way in which we administer global and national affairs to redirect financing in ways that support the climate. And that's what this issue of climate financing is about. Whether or not it will work and the developed countries will be able to make the allocations from their budget relative to what their electorate feels, it would only work unless there is a very robust international movement that keeps calling for it and pricking that conscience and morality and saying, this has to be done. And it is constantly being done. That's part of my job, my responsibilities, to speak on these issues and to bring it to light in ways that the average person can understand it. I'm speaking very simplistically now so that I can bring more people into the conversation. So when persons here, and if we are lucky to have our students from Calabar start to do research on this, and they start to write papers, and they become passionate about it, who knows, we may have another advocate on the global scene. And that's how you start. You mention, what's he called, a rebellion, Extinction Rebellion, and other such. There are many, there is a spectrum of how the issue is being treated with. All right, so I'm doing my little part in trying to raise consciousness about the issues. Now, let's come back to Jamaica. What is Jamaica's strategy? So Jamaica's strategy is, one, to play its role in the advocacy, this in terms of creating this global architecture, supporting the COP movement, in ensuring that all countries are doing what they can to mitigate and adapt, slow down, and to educate their population about climate change. So Jamaica has done very well in terms of its nationally determined contributions to the whole climate change issues, trying to make sure that we meet the 1.5% goal. Now, outside of that, Jamaica has to take responsibility for itself. Right? My administration is one that believes in self-reliance. I'm not going to wait on anybody's conscience to save me. I believe in saving myself. If somebody's good grace or conscience comes through, hey, great. But every Jamaican must stand on their own 2 feet and face the world. Don't wait on anybody. And that has been my view on climate change issues, on reparations, on loss and damage. We're going to fight to get them, but we're not waiting on them. And therefore, in our resource plan, we believe in building buffers in our budget. What does that mean? If an event were to happen, well, let me back up a little bit. There are really 2 types of events that could occur. One would be a high-frequency, low-severity event caused by climate change. So you could have a consistent period of heavy rains. It will cause some localized damage, floods, crop loss, some housing damage, roads damaged. So that's high frequency, low impact, low severity. And then you have some events caused by climate change that are low frequency. They may happen, probability of them happening is low, and it may happen once every 100 years. But the impact of it is so great that it could wipe out your entire GDP. The problem with climate change, however, is that the 100-year event is now happening every 10 or 20 years. You see? And the problem with climate change is that the 100-year event that is now happening every 10 or 20 years, it is overlapping. So you have high frequency, low severity events overlapping with low frequency but high severity events. So in other words, you could have heavy rains, little flood, road breakaway, and then you have a big hurricane. You see the complexity of why the common man mustn't just say, sure, climate change don't affect me. It affects you every single day. So governments have to think about this and plan for it. The average person doesn't realize the asset you have in this government, because we have taken an entirely different approach to the management of your affairs. So what we have done is to create buffers in our budget to be able to address the high frequency but low severity events. Previously, what used to happen when we were affected by low severity, high frequency events, or any event at all? Can anybody tell me? Okay, somebody knows. Yes, of course. That's what we used to do. We used to borrow. And then you wonder, why is the debt so high? Well, clearly there are other reasons, why the debt became high. But a large part of why the debt became high was because we were always being hit by these weather events. And we can't budget for it because we don't have the economic growth to do it. So we have to go and borrow. And every storm, every rain, every flood, every road that got washed away, there is some borrowing that takes place. So you see why climate change, managing climate change is important. Right, so what we have done now is to put buffers in our budget. So we have a disaster recovery fund, and we have a contingency, and every year we put to that. So before, what we used to do was to take from the future revenues and consume it today to deal with today's threat, and that is effectively borrowing. All right, so what we are doing is taking the future taxes that these students here would pay when they grow up and become employed and become productive citizens, to pay for the challenges that we are experiencing today. Now, they're going to be left with the burden of not only today's challenges, but the challenges that they will face in the future. What we have done is to take today's savings and put it aside so that when they have an event in the future, they can call on the savings that we left for them. That is what we mean by putting a buffer. It's biblical. It's putting aside the corn for 7 years. Yes. We have never been in a position to do that before. Does the common man appreciate that? Is that something that he will vote for? That's what we face, right? Because as far as he's concerned, I may only worry about my road and don't have my road fixed now. But not seeing the complexities that go into ensuring that his road can be fixed. And that's why we have universities. And that's why I'm here today. Because it's the universities that need to get these complex issues to the common man. The role of the university is not to keep knowledge circulating in its halls. It's to circulate the knowledge outside the society to combat the high level of misinformation and ignorance that exists. We spend billions of dollars every year on our universities. And they do great work, but it is trapped inside textbooks and their computers and within their campuses. It needs to get out there to the common person so that they become informed voters. We have also developed risk transfer mechanisms to deal with the low severity, the low frequency, high severity events. And that would be participating in the insurance schemes like the CRIF. But we did an innovative one. We had a catastrophe bond. We're the first Caribbean country to issue one, and it has been very successful. So if a major event were to occur, we would have access immediately to a high level of financing to be able to address it. So people, say, why Jamaica not going in the right direction? The country say, no, look, come here, stop talk foolishness. Don't talk what you don't know. Jamaica has changed in fundamental ways. We have addressed the issue of Jamaica being able to withstand multiple crises happening all at once, crises that are not just low severity, but high severity, crises that are overlapping. Let's talk about the last 8 years. Almost every 2 years you have had a major rainfall event that has destroyed our roads. Just reflect. Almost like clockwork. Then we have had a pandemic. Several major tropical storms. And we have had burial. And they're all overlapping. So we've just come out of burial, and now look at the amount of rains that we have had. There are some areas that have been localized, videos circulating in St. James, where you had a massive, just out of nowhere, heavy rain that damaged properties. Now, think of it. Just think of it. Could we repair all of those roads that were damaged all at once? But just look at the heavy rains that we have had and the impact on the roads. You begin then to understand how climate change impacts your lives. But let's look at another impact of climate change. Drought. Think about it. When you look at the rainfall patterns, the northeastern end of the island would get the highest level of rainfall. I've seen data which is suggesting that that has shifted, that the northeastern end is not getting as much rainfall as it used to get. The droughts are longer and more intense. So when you're quarreling about your water, It's not a government that doesn't care to give you water. That's not the issue. Sometimes the question is, where is the water source? And how do we get the water from where it is to where you choose to live? These are planning issues that UTech needs to be speaking on to explain to people that if you choose to go live on the way up in some top of the hill where there's no water, the cost it is going to take for us to move water from where it is to you is uneconomical. And therefore, the issue in dealing with climate change is also a settlement issue, where you choose to live. But our universities don't get into this conversation to get people to understand that you have to be making the proper choices as citizens. Because I give you the situation in the Grill recently, our major tourist area. Big problem with water. And a part of the issue was that the source dried up. Now, the sources will change where they are because sometimes the tree covers, people cut down the trees, mining, all kinds of issues that disrupt the natural hydrological flows. So, climate change, and then, of course, the disruption in the rainfall patterns. Climate change affects us every day. You talk about the heat and the time is hotter. I agree with you, Mr. President. My perspective when I was growing up, time was never so hot. But I'm speaking anecdotally, I don't have the evidence. That is why we need the universities now to go and somebody go do a study on it now and publish it so we can see it. You have. Please send me the study and let's publish that information to the general population so that they are empowered. But let's take a look at this. Yesterday, I toured the Montego Bay bypass, the perimeter road project, massive project. And that project, we ensured that it was built to resilience. It was built to withstand, a 100-year event. Reinforcements, culverts, the path that we chose, the corridor, all of that we did just to ensure that it can withstand. So if anything were to happen to our roads on the shoreline, which these are decisions taken centuries ago, we will have roads on the interior at higher ground where we can continue to navigate and travel. So if you notice, we are building our roads, we are carrying them in as much as we can. The North-South Road, the South Coast Road Improvement Project, which still skirts the coast of St. Thomas, as much as possible we have tried to realign. And we're going to realign even further when we do the bypass for Portland, all right? Because from a development and spatial management strategy, Jamaica must move its roads to higher ground and inland. And we're doing that right now. So if there were to be a catastrophic event where our shoreline roads are affected, we would still be able to move. Now, for the common man, he doesn't care about that. He's quarreling about his road not fixed, but not seeing that there are existential threats that we have to address now. And as we address those existential threats in building these highways, it is to ensure that Jamaica can continue if an existential threat were to materialize. So yes, we announced a Spark program to fix your local roads, but we have to continue building these highways because there are risks involved. And you just need to look at what has happened in Miami recently, where a storm just formed out of nowhere in the Yucatan Peninsula there. And how it just flooded out. It's what happened there is just crazy. And by the way, one right after the other. But consider the impact on the United States. Barely a blip. But consider if that were to happen to Jamaica. It would have wiped out our GDP. So don't believe that these existential threats can't materialize. As far as I'm concerned, is God save us. So we must use the reprieve to make wise decisions, not foolish short-term decisions. And that's what we have been doing. Look at all our infrastructure projects. Just look at every one of them. If a natural disaster were to happen that poses an existential threat, we could still continue to have economic activity. We don't get credit for that. Nobody sees it in that way. But that is what we're doing. And that's the right thing for Jamaica, given this context of the threat of climate change. But the last point I wanted to make on this matter, just to make the connections with why climate change is so important. So we toured the Perimeter Road project in Montego Bay yesterday. And one of the lasting legacies of that project is that we built a testing lab, for a materials testing lab. And whilst we were there, we were discussing asphalt and roadways and the varying tests, the various tests that we should do. And one of them we were looking at is, the life of the asphalt. And they have a machine that they can heat up the asphalt, and it will tell you how long it will last based upon heat exposure and so forth. Now, the hotter the time is, the greater the exposure to sun will determine the useful life of the surface. So yes, there is always this issue of the quality of work and the quality of material use, but please, when we are talking about our roads, also talk about the change in the temperature and how that will affect the wearing life of the surface laid. And that is something that we now need to internalize to figure out what standard we need to use. What kind of change in composition of the asphalt we lay we need. And that's where our universities come in. Right? That's where particularly a university like UTech come in, that you need to be studying these things to say, based upon the impact of climate change, your roads are going to have more water events and much more heat. And therefore, what is the appropriate standard that we should be building at, or what material changes we need to make? So, Ms. Joyce, the road in front of your house that is damaged, a part of that is climate change. Mr. Mack, you quarreled with me about the water. Yeah, a part of that is the climate change. And so, as you form your political view, and as you form and become part of what is called the political economy, you should get information on those things to inform your outlook and your perspective. Very important. So, I don't know if you're still happy that you invited me to this conference. But I took it because I wanted to have this conversation. And I'm happy that I did. And you have been a lovely audience, and I hope that you have been enlightened in even the smallest way about the impact of climate change. God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. All my colleagues from the Faculty of the Built Environment were itching to respond to some of your wonderful ideas and nudging towards action. And we definitely have some glorious research stacked away in the library, but we also partner with industry and government for real solution. I'm going to ask you, Prime Minister, to stand again, please. The head of School of Building and Land Management, Dr. Anithia Jackson, I think she may want to tell you about the H&L project, just briefly. She may want to tell you about our Soils and Materials Lab. And I did mention the Jamaica Safe School project, but she may also want to tell you about the work we have done in the region in climate mitigation. So it's not all tucked away in the library. We have our tentacles in industry and in governments across the region. So a token to you from Dr. Jackson. Please go.
Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. Is it still morning? Good morning, everyone. Aren't we excited to be in this forum? It's rainy, but I'm not feeling down. I'm feeling hopeful and optimistic. I'm ready for solutions. To our Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, I can assure you, sir, that your presentation met the moment. You have, through your address, articulated the complexity of the challenges and how each of us are being affected and will be affected by climate change impacts. Hearing this kind of message from you is an excellent place to begin for this conference. You have made the point, sir, that climate change affects our lives holistically. So yes, the environment, but the social, our political lives, our economic well-being, and beyond. Essentially, it touches every aspect of our existence. And that's an important message. We also thank you, sir, for acknowledging the role of the university and universities like this one in devising solutions. And I can assure you, Most Honorable Prime Minister, that climate change is at the heart of what we do at this university and in the Faculty of the Built Environment. So for example, Dr. Young, you know I will take the time to speak about all our initiatives, but in the last 2 or 3 academic years, I can speak on a number of initiatives and research that we have been doing, particularly around the matter of the building codes, which is essential for safety, but also around devising alternative methods to build, to ensure that our structures are being built for resilience, right? And so, for example, the matter of you will see here today, the Easy Blocks, that's one of our sponsors, and one of the products that they are bringing to the market has to do with using more sustainable materials to build our housing outputs, materials that respond better to the heat. We spoke about the heat, our president did, and how it's almost uncomfortable being in our spaces. So we have been involved in research to support the development and implementation of new solutions, and we are eager to continue the partnership with private sector and of course with government, because we see our role as being very, very important in addressing the matters of climate change. So we thank you, sir, for accepting the call. We thank you for giving this address. In fact, your very presence in this conference demonstrate that as a nation, we are heeding the call and that you are prepared to lead us as we heed that call. Something you said, I hope, will resonate with all of us. Climate change is not happening to us, and let's let that soak in. It is not happening to us. We are not victims. It is what we are doing, right? And when you are doing something, you take responsibility to address it. So on behalf of the University of Technology and the Faculty of the Built Environment, we would like to thank you, our most honorable Prime Minister, for coming, for addressing us, and we offer you a very small token as an expression of our gratitude.
Please note the recycled material the bag is made from. Thank you, Dr. Jackson, and thank you, Prime Minister, for your very engaging and stimulating and coming from your heart presentation. We are so happy we chose the Prime Minister for our keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, we're moving to close the opening ceremony, yes? And we have just a bit of entertainment for you, and then we will follow with a little refreshment. It's kind of close to lunchtime, but we'll still refresh you before lunch. So I'm going to invite to the podium for a bit of entertainment from the UTech Center for the Arts, and I'm saying it with pride, and the young lady who will sing for us knows why. She is a member of the choir. She is a member of our drama group. She's also an instrumentalist, and she also is with the dance ensemble. Wow. The multi-talented Shantae Brown will sing for us today.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Took me from my roots, tried to destroy my stem. They tried to cut down my branches, said them want to see my life end. But my strength increased, the more that they multiply, the trunk and the roots will firm to the ground. I am ebony is strong, ebony survives, ebony is free. I am ebony is strong, ebony survives, ebony is free, free. From Kenya, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Uganda, to the greater and the lesser Antilles. They took us from our motherland in shackles and in chains to be slaves in the Caribbean. Boy, we've been there, endure for a night. Rejoicing comes in the morning, so we'll be free. We are ebony. I am ebony is strong, ebony survives, ebony is free. I am ebony is strong, ebony survives,
turned off your mic. Thank you very much, the talented Shantae representing UTech Center for the Arts. And as a STEM institution, we still have a lot of vibe and arts in us, President. And so if you want to hear more, come and listen to the steel pan and other things. Yeah. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to just quickly recognize our sponsors, our gold sponsor among us, and you will hear from them in our subsequent session. HLCM Group, thank you very much for your gold sponsorship. And the silver sponsors are the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, the Planning Institute of Jamaica, the Urban Development Corporation, Spatial Innovation, and the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, JIPO. Let's hear it for them. And we're also grateful for our bronze sponsors, the National Environmental and Planning Agency, that's the NEPA's CEO is doing that before I was finished. Wigton Farm, the Land Surveyors Association of Jamaica, High Seas Alliance, Easy Block, that was mentioned earlier, and the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, really very important. Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been quite engaging. We did start a little late, and so we will get into our break a little late. So we have 15 minutes break, and the room, we have our coffee, and what comes with it is in these same facilities, but it's just across there in room 47A, 7, and 8. That's where the coffee break is. You will see some nice dressed student. No? Oh, it's right here. I'm sorry. Well, that's what my program says. Anyway, right, so we won't have you walk very far for your coffee. It's just on the outside, and please visit the booths for the exhibits that our sponsors have set up outside. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. 15 minutes. It is now 11:35, and so at 11:50, we will meet again in this room. 1 minute, please, before you go. We have a token for our Minister of Education to be presented by the head of school. Dr. Newville? Or Dean. I'm so sorry for demoting you. Yes, so, Dean, Dean Newville. You want the mic, sir? If you... Sorry, Minister.
My apologies, Minister, but Minister of Education, on behalf of the University of Technology, the Faculty of Built Environment, and the organizer of this wonderful conference, I'd like to just present you this token as a gesture of our goodwill, and thank you for having your backs always. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. The conference has not ended. It has just started. So this was the opening ceremony. We asked you to step on the outside, meet and greet, network, have something to drink and snack on, and then return to this room for our first plenary session. Thank you very much for coming to the opening ceremony. And thanks to those online. Thanks for your patience.
Saying a change is possible is like fixing the unfixable. Saying a change is possible is like fixing the unfixable. Start now. We can't. Just do nothing and blame those who came before us. Let's not be irrational. There is nothing we can do. There is nothing we can do Let's not be irrational and blame those who came before us. Just do nothing? We can't. Start now is like fixing the unfixable and saying a change is possible. Choose right, choose life. Warner Energy.